Virginia prosecutor is coming under fire for her handling of a teen's alleged sexual assault. One America's Zach Peterson has more.
A Virginia prosecutor who sought jail time against a father arrested at a school board meeting is being scrutinized for her handling of a multi-victim juvenile rape case. Despite running as a progressive prosecutor against mass incarcerations, Loudoun County Commonwealth's attorney Buda Biberai pushed for jail time for Scott Smith's misdemeanor resisting arrest charge. Smith's attorney says Biberai uncharacteristically appeared in court to personally prosecute Smith rather than drop the charges as was expected, due to her intimate knowledge of the facts surrounding the case. Scott Smith was arrested at a Loudoun County school board meeting in June, several weeks after he says his daughter was raped in a school bathroom by a 14-year-old male student reportedly wearing a skirt. Critics, activists, and parents of Loudoun County are questioning if the prosecutor was overtly trying to silence Smith as part of a larger cover-up by the school board.
I am disgusted looking back at the school board meeting on the 22nd, knowing what I know now. The meeting was purposely stopped prior to Mr. Smith being able to address the board. Pictures of Mr. Smith were then circulated nationwide under a false narrative. You all know what happened in this room. I do too. Dr. Ziegler and Mrs. Jones then lied about the assaults happening at LCPS, and the entire board stayed silent.
Now, Biberai's political motives and ties to mega donor George Soros have come under greater scrutiny. The Democrat received nearly $860,000 from the Justice and Public Safety PAC, a DC-based committee financed by Soros and by far the largest donor to her campaign. Biberai's political opponent, attorney Nicole Whitman, has said George Soros uses his mega wealth to push an agenda of criminal justice reform, a very anti-law enforcement, anti-victim type of agenda. Whitman maintains Soros has targeted prosecutor races as one of the most direct routes to changing policy, because the local offices wield power over who gets charged, what charges they face, and who goes free on bond. Smith says his teenage daughter's rape was mishandled by the school and the prosecutor's office from the start.
The initial assault, we were notified on the phone that our daughter had been beat up in the girls' bathroom by a male. Nothing about sexual assault. My wife, my daughter, and the guidance counselor were not allowed to talk about what had happened. They just sat there in silence. And my wife and daughter had to communicate with hand signals and stuff just to figure out what was going on. Nobody would reveal that it was a sexual assault that day.
Supporters of the Smith family have suggested a so-called gender-fluid male in a girl's bathroom forced the progressive school board and authorities into a corner.
Can you imagine showing up to a school and finding out that your daughter had just been sodomized and wondering why there isn't an ambulance at the school and sheriff's officers?
Smith says he demanded answers and resources for his daughter the school wasn't willing to give. It became apparent to Smith that the school resource officer wasn't going to help him, and was answering to the school principal, who then called 911 on Smith.
The sheriff's department showed up like a SWAT team and escorted me, my wife, and my daughter off the property.
Later, Prosecutor Biberai told the Smith family that the suspect would be under house arrest and would not be returning to Loudoun County schools until the court case had concluded, but that was not the case. The suspect was charged with 2 counts of forcible sodomy and transferred to another school before the case was even brought to court. Despite the violent nature of the suspect's first sexual assault against Smith's 9th-grade daughter, Biberai defended her recommendation to the judge that the offender be fit with an ankle monitor and transferred to another school because he had no priors.
We believe, based on the fact that he had no history of having done this prior to this offense that was alleged made, that was something that could be relied to suggest that there would not be a repeat of the behavior.
Parents at the second school in Loudoun County were not made aware of the student's charges because he was a minor. On October 16th, the suspected rapist was accused of sexually assaulting a second student. The now 15-year-old allegedly held another female student at a different school against her will in an empty classroom and inappropriately touched her. The suspect now faces additional sexual battery and abduction charges and is currently being held in a juvenile detention center. Smith maintains that the rape of his daughter and the subsequent sexual assault by the same individual were both predictable and preventable. On a practical level, Smith says the school security systems are not adequately prepared to prevent incidents like this from occurring in the future.
You know, there needs to be male and female SRO officers at every school, because there needs to be the right sex officer to be able to patrol the right sex bathroom. So if there's not a male and female SRO officer at the school, our children